Hi, everyone. I'm Tom Zuber, the managing partner of Zuber Lawler. We're a law firm headquartered in Los Angeles, and we have offices across the country. We've been in cannabis since 2006, representing many of the biggest brands and companies in global cannabis. I'm also a founder of Global Go, which is a leading consultancy in the space, and Global Cannabis Times, a magazine in the space. I'm here with Alex Kwon, the co-founder of Advanced Vapor Devices, I think one of the most exciting companies in all of global cannabis, and we'll get to that. Alex, do you want to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, it's obviously an honor to be here. I know some of you in the crowd, and I think it's a really exciting time of cannabis right now as you see a lot of winds of change. And I think 3.0 is upon us and a lot of changes. We've been in and around the space for almost 2 decades, and so we have a wealth of experience from a multitude of different disciplines within the space, whether from an operator perspective or understanding kind of how the ancillary markets work, or even how capital is deployed into just kind of as the different changes of the industry have happened.
Great. And I really am excited for this chat, and the reason is I think Advanced Vapor Devices is so well positioned to continue growing, and I do think that it is one of the most exciting companies in all global cannabis. That's a large statement, but to punctuate the point, it now serves 400 brands. It provides technology, vape technology to over 400 brands throughout the US and Canada. Tell us about the founding of your company and what inspired you to start it.
That's a great question, and I try to keep it brief. One of the questions I actually have is how many people in the room are operators, like cannabis operators? How many people are capital allocators, so investment bankers in the room? Not many, just from an operation. And then how many are in hardware? Okay, cool. Just kind of wanted to see the audience and some of the ways that we can add value in this conversation as we go down the path. In a lot of ways, we started with, the journey kind of really started with land acquisitions and development in Northern California. That kind of led to the next stage, which was building a production facility that was really targeted towards the derivatives of the plant, if you will, all in liquid format. So you're kind of going after, in layman terms, the juice. You're targeting cost efficiencies, the best way to cultivate. What are the different extraction methodologies? How do I get to the best cost per milligram or milliliter and consistently? That kind of led to the next stage of being in hardware and cartridges, and that kind of led to understanding all the different kinds of it. And as we saw some shortcomings in that channel and kind of what that looked like as far as it being specifically for cannabis, I think it kind of started as a kind of a serendipitous path of hey, this is an area that we need to understand better, control better. And AVD in a lot of ways kind of started as a side project to help us maybe provide a solution for the issues that we were seeing from, when you're really dedicated on understanding kind of the plant and extract side and derivative side. And so that, one thing led to another on hardware, and then it took off like a rocket ship, and here we are today, and it's been an important part for realizing those are the solutions that we were solving, rooted in really the cannabis aspect of it.
And I want to talk about that. Of course, there are a number of very successful companies in the cannabis space, and I think these days what's celebrated is sheer competence, right? Just being able to hit your marks every month, month after month, with high quality product, whether it's in an ancillary company like AVD, or whether it's providing flower or things in between. I want to talk more about what the problems that you had to solve, and getting to the point. Your story, as I listen to you talk about it, Alex, reminds me a little bit of the story behind the iPod, right? And as different as the industries are, cannabis is very different, obviously, from the industry that Apple's in. There are similarities there that I saw, because I remember a story that I had read a long time ago when the iPod first came out about how Steve Jobs made that and why he made it. And he really wasn't making that for the rest of us. That's an exaggeration, but you get my point. He was making it for himself. He was tired of using his shitty little Walkman, pardon my language, and he wanted to experience his music in a better way. So he built something that he wanted to use, and then the whole world loved it. And as I heard you talk about your story, it reminded me, it was similar to that in theme, I think. And I'd love to hear about that for the audience's benefit. What were some of the problems that you were seeing? Why did you feel you had to make a better product? And you made it first as a consumer of the product, and then you became the supplier.
Yeah, that's really high praise. I wouldn't put us on that type of analogous part of Apple and those pieces. But I think structurally, strategically, when you think and you look back at it, that can make some sense, right? And I think one of the problems that happen is, and look, a lot of the panels earlier we're talking about, when we talk about brand, you talk about your business, consistency is what quality is, right? How do you do this repeatedly? How are you reliable? How are you able to show up in those manners? And that's really, really important. It's core value for what we do, and I think that's for any type of operator in any business. So I think what happens when you put a lot of the work into understanding all the other work, so a lot of people that have been in, the plant touching side and really built their brands up and try to do that, I think one of the pain points that happened was when the hardware failed, I don't think the consumers thought the hardware brand was wrong. They thought your brand sucked. And that inherently, you could do all this work, but the last vehicle, that last mile, that piece, and then what I think the differential, the issues that happened was like, albeit there's a lot of technology built from the nicotine side and e-cigarettes, they just did not understand the plant, right? And it has different types of viscosities, phenols, chemicals, all the different reactions that can happen when you heat and cool something. And I think that was something that we were noticing. And again, it just started as something like, hey, we have an understanding of this, maybe we can make something better. And it really started as just a side gig, right? It was like, how do we help ourselves? And inherently, it's going to be something that's going to work for us when we're running a high terpene extract, or we're running a real live resin, or start moving into solventless products, and understanding that, and then knowing the basis of where some of the, more regular products that you'll see in the market, more distillates and botanicals and those type of aspects. So I know that's a lot of information, but really, to your point, it was the vehicle for that consistently, and understanding that wasn't there. And it really started again as us trying to provide that solution because it's something that we needed. And then again, the rest is history. Kind of just took off.
And so how do you provide that consistency in this industry?
Well, I think one of the most important things is controlling your supply chain. If you don't understand how supply chain in general, the game of supply chain, and then understanding what control of it means, not only from a quality control perspective, but the inputs, but how they intercorrelate, how they, all those pieces, and then also you have an input supply chain perspective from a hardware side, and then you have to understand it from a plant touching side, which is all of our brands and all of our clients and the people that you're serving, and what they're actually trying to do to achieve that. I think control of the supply chain gives you flexibility, gives you adaptability, but then it allows you to operate at a very high standard. And I think that's one of the things for us as consumers and caring about the plant, being driven from the plant. We consume these products as well. We want to understand what's in it. We want to understand that it's consistent. And ultimately, that's our role in working with clients. It's the trust that's built, that they know that we're going to deliver every time consistently, and when we say that we're going to. And I think in so many times, so much of that is missing. And that's a really core component to the people that we have and the people relationships that we have with clients. And ultimately, we have to be able to stand by our word and what we do, and the control of the supply chain allows you to do that. Or at least be a lot more transparent about what the actual issue is. Instead of some symptom of a problem, you can actually identify the real one.
And Alex, for the audience's sake, and we'll only get as specific as you want to, and we'll understand if you say that's a little too specific. But when we talk about controlling the supply chain, Advanced Vapor Devices, like other companies, sources much of its product from China. So how do you control the supply chain if, like other companies, you're sourcing some of your components, at least from China?
Yeah, I think and all work is done with people, and I think that's an important part. We have an incredible overseas organization, and the relationship between, and it's, I wouldn't say the consistency of which that we see eye to eye, and then the constant checks and balance of like raising the standards across all of our component supply chains. It's not just the assembly, it goes all the way down into your CNC, into your glass production, into your core production, into kind of how they're optimizing for the product builds that you're having. And then again, also tweaking and understanding how that's going to shift with validation on the US side to understand, like, is this the right product? that not only our customers are telling us, but is this adding value to the way that they may be fulfilling or doing the work that they're doing.
Thanks, Alex. Alex, tell us about some of the key products and innovations that you have developed over the years.
So, you know, a lot of these are on our website, but I think the most recent one, I think that's very topical, is, you know, we spent a better half of 6 to 10 months. If you guys are familiar with Select's Curaleaf's new product, the Brick, the 2-gram all-in-one, it's handheld size. That was a project that that took a lot, top and down. You know, look, whenever you do launches to be successful in the way that they are, you need a willing dance partner, and it was amazing to work with that team for what they've done. And I think one of the things that we're proud of is being able to be adaptable to the increased demand that came from the reception of that product. You know, I don't want to put numbers out there, but it was a significant higher number of demand than what was forecasted, but because of the nimbleness in our supply chain and the communication across multiple departments and between our organizations, we were able to meet that demand and be able to adapt quickly to even when it was so much farther ahead of the demand that was there. So I think that was a really good innovation of being able to pack something in something small, have the consistency of our flavor technology and everything that's kind of consistent. It's all about consistency and priding ourselves in obviously lowering all the failure rates that happen that are associated with these type of devices.
Let's talk a bit about product safety. That of course is it's an inflammatory term almost in this industry. You read this happens with a vape device that blows up in a child's face, and all of a sudden it's not just bad for that company, it's bad for the whole industry. And there's such, I think, a public focus on product safety when it comes to cannabis. Much of it do, but some of it I think undo as a function of prejudice against cannabis. So with stakes that high when it comes to public perception of product safety, how are you addressing that? What are some of the things that you're doing in that area?
You know, that's a great question, because I think it's not just cannabis in general. Obviously, we have that kind of association with that, but I think vaping in general, right? I think that's been something that has been a topic. It's a large category in consumption, and for us, you know, there'll be more news that comes out from this, but we're propping up, you know, some regulatory efforts with some leaders in the space, and I think it's really all around understanding the safety and the science of the field of toxicology, understanding standards that should be set, just even how these products are brought together and what they actually mean. So I think in any stage of you have something coming out of nascency and you have incredible growth and a lot of exuberance, I think there's a lot of stages and ages that kind of happen. And throughout those hurdles, you got to be aware of how are you trying to address these things in the future, because I think there is risks from a regulation side, people not understanding, kind of back to our point, not really understanding the plant or understanding what it means in a vapor device or what that means on an aerosol, what that actually means on knowing your vendor, what are the products that are coming in to be constructed that are being sold for a consumption product. So I think standardization is important. I think obviously lobbying and understanding kind of the right information that they actually get that part right instead of white labeling other industries' regulations on top of ours, which we've seen in the past. If anybody's been around for a while, I think you guys know that creates a lot of pain and suffering, and hence you're seeing a lot of the, you know, the variance of the peaks and valleys of our industry, if you will.
I know that I saw when you were polling the audience here, we saw some operators, some suppliers in the audience here. For their sake and for mine, tell us about some of the challenges that you overcame, and more importantly, how did you overcome them? Getting here to this point, obviously you look at a company and say, wow, that's a successful company, but behind the scenes, we know there's a whole story in how you got to this point, right? And so how did you, the challenges that you faced, what were the biggest ones, and how did you overcome them again?
I have to think about that one at times. There's been a lot of, I think for any entrepreneur or anybody that tries to build something, there's always challenges, right? And I think through those challenges is what makes you stronger and makes you gain clarity. Throughout our journey so far, I think there's been a lot of challenges. There's been a lot of partners. There's been a lot of different, you know, legal actions. There's been, kind of just being curious, and that's actually kind of a theme. Like it just really comes from being curious, and really focusing on your people. I think some of the greatest challenges, whether it was seeing a large, nicotine company to bring IP actions, having disputes with other people and other businesses as the space kind of got more litigious, if you will. I think we've seen that. The competition, I think, is always good. I think that's always good for just innovation and driving of the industry. But I think at the end of the day, you're going to see hurdles. You're going to see challenges. There's going to be geopolitical risks. There's going to be market risks. There's going to be regulatory change. All those things are going to, again, back to the kind of peaks and valleys and stages and ages. I think you have to be able to be prepared to have who's in the foxhole with you. So you got to understand your people really well. And I think that's one of our greatest assets is our people. And at the end of the day, we're able to weather those storms and grow from them because we're curious. We're understanding what's making us uncomfortable and knowing what we don't know. And then therefore, we can plug those gaps or focus on the things that we need to do. And I think if you just kind of take that approach and you have the benefit of having a long-term vision, having your sense of urgency but not rushing, as we talked about, right? I think that allows us to do that because we're very fortunate because of being able to not have other people to answer to from a financial position, having the stability that way. And again, that's really important for us so that we can be a rock for not only, and then that's the challenges that you go through to get there, right? It's the people that have helped do that, but also we want to make sure that we convey that type of trust to our clients, to know that we're there to grow with them, scale with them, and be supportive of them, because ultimately that's who we serve. We serve the plant and our clients.
What leadership qualities do you celebrate as the leader of Advanced Vapor Devices, as the CEO?
Leadership's an interesting topic. I don't almost view myself as I wouldn't say I view myself as a leader. It's like, I think you have to provide an excellent team, and you have to understand people's personal goal. Like as we talked about, everyone has a different stage of their lives. You're at a different stage of your life today than you were 5-10 years ago. I am as well, and I bet everybody in this room is. That's not any different than our industry. That's not any different than these companies, and it's not any different than the human beings that run in your company. And I think having a intentional thoughtfulness about where those people are and that alignment with the company is there is incredibly crucial. I'm very fortunate. I feel I'm super lucky because we have an excellent culture at this company, and luckily other companies that I've been lucky to be a part of. I really believe that it comes down to, as a leader, you got to obviously be able to articulate vision. You got to be able to talk about what strategy and tactics are. But the tactical, sometimes you got to let go of if you have great people. Back to your Steve Jobs thing, it's like he always says he puts smart people around him so that they tell him what to do. Yeah. And so I think as a leader, one of the things that's important is how, who are the right who's? How do I replace myself from that so that other people can grow? And I think that's an important part of leadership. I love nothing more than see our people grow, and also solving problems for clients and seeing them grow. It's also really awesome when they get it and they find a solution to a problem. So it's the human element of that, and I think it's all kind of intertwined, not only as leadership, but the purpose of your company and what you're doing. And so, again, I just feel very grateful that alignment and clarity on where you're trying to go is I think, what is important for leadership.
I think we have time for one more question here, and I'd love to get your take, Alex, on the future of the vaping industry in general and Advanced Vapor Devices' place within that future. Where's it all going?
That's a complex question. I think the future is incredibly bright. I think the one consistency that everybody would agree with that's going to happen is change. I think you're going to see change, and I think within that time period of change, there's X factors that will accelerate or decelerate that change. And And I know that's not saying much, but some of those are obviously regulatory. What is enforcement versus the rule changes? What is the IP landscape in the future look like if regulatory things change? How's capital going to be viewed? And then again, I think a lot of those things in the space, we know it's headed towards, different forms of whether it's full-on legalization or de facto legalization or however you interpret these things. It's going to create different pockets of opportunities. And I think you have to be aware as a company what game you are playing and understanding where the opportunities are opening up, and then to be prepared to take advantage of those. I think for AVD, for us, we're going to just keep chopping wood. I think that we have a great team and what we're executing. We have clarity around our multi-year plan and what we need to do to execute. And then at the same time, I think we're going to be looking at ways to disrupt not only ourselves, but other ways to look at where growth can be. But again, I think we're fortunate to have a great team to be focused on what is in front of us, and then also knowing what could shift the needle dramatically, right? The gamma, if you will, in a trade. So I think for us, we're going to consistently do what we've been doing, which is building trust, talking about how we believe that these are solutions because of the experiences that we've gone through in the space, as whether we're from an operations side or from a finance side, or understanding a different way to how do I want to grow my brand presence, and how do I kind of build next technologies that are beholden to what we're doing, or at least our brand. So in a lot of ways, we're going to continue to put our client first, our people first, and take a long-term view on what that needs to look like. Be very prudent around the business fundamentals that it takes to run a strong cash flowing company that can be sustainable and predictable and reliable for our clients.
Well, Alex, it's been a blast talking to you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you, all of you, for listening. And I do want to say I'm really impressed by the company because ultimately it seems to me that it really is about people for you. And so to be able to say, okay, we want people to have a great experience with the products of the brands that source their technology from us, I think that's a great hook to hang a company on. So it's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Benzinga. Appreciate it.
Thank you.